episode of the Puppet Therapy Podcast with your host, Chris.
And Ray.
All right, today we have with us Daniel Bruce Lennon. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I wish I was made of iron. If I was linen, I would be a little more crumpled than I am.
Oh, Levin, I'm sorry.
Okay, but I can be linen. I'm happy to be linen. I think you're actually picked up psychically on my frame of mind.
I am so sorry, Mr. Levin.
Don't
Levin.
be sorry.
I thought I messed it up again. How you doing, sir?
I am super good. There's nothing. I like actually being Lenin. I might be Lenin, and then I might become Lenin, and I might rule Russia, as a dictator.
All right. For the sake of what do you want us to address you as throughout the whole show? You want me to call you Mr. Lennon?
No.
Danny?
No. I'm Danny.
All right.
Unless
Danny.
I have to unless you want me to call you Mr. McCoy and Mrs. McCoy.
No, please no. So Chris and Raven.
Okay, and Danny.
All right, cool. So it's a special episode because this is the first episode we recorded in over a month. So we're hitting off with a bang. And the reason why I'm glad that me and you kind of linked up through Facebook is because I think you have a great story to tell. And as we talked earlier, I am very ignorant to the fact that you were a monk. I'm very ignorant in the knowledge of what a monk actually is because all I know is a stereotypical type of monks. So before we get into that and everything, as far as your book and everything, before that, I didn't even introduce who you were. So Danny here, or Mr. Levin here.
Danny.
Okay. He's a visionary and the author of the Mosaic Book. And if you're watching, of the Mosaic. So if you are watching this on YouTube right now, you'll be able to see his background. That's his book in the background that you can check out, which we'll talk about in a little bit. All right. So, Danny, I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you, guys. It's really nice to be here with you. I think one of the things that I would want to share with you is that you can see, for those of you who are on video, you can see I'm becoming an older man. And over the course, the only good thing that age has given me is over the course of time, it's shown me a lot of different perspectives. I've been lucky enough to mix with some of the richest people in the world at their dining room tables, not in their lecture rooms. I've been able to sit with them and meet their parents over dinner or over a course of dinners. And
wow.
They've been kind enough to ask my counsel on some things and kind enough to give me counsel on other things. I sat on the living room floor and played with their kids.
Okay.
But Chris and Rave, the beautiful thing is I've also had the incredible opportunity to sit on street corners on cardboard boxes with some of the poorest of the poor. And what I found in the ability to be with every type of person, that there were certain traits that came out that every single person wanted. You would think that a poor person wanted to be rich and a rich person wanted more fame, but that wasn't what I found.
Mm-hmm.
What I found is the same three things happen no matter what a person did, no matter what color their skin, no matter what religion they practiced, no matter what border they lived behind, who they defined themselves as, or how much education they had. All people wanted to be loved and accepted, listened to and heard, and acknowledged and validated. Okay. And I realized that I could do that for people. That didn't take any ordination or, I was almost ordained. I spent 5 years in a rabbinical school studying to be a rabbi. I was 10 years in a monastery as a monk. I went to college and studied psychology, but none of that's important. All that's important is that we open our hearts to each other and just say to somebody, how are you, man? How are you, baby? Baby, not baby. How are you, brother and sister, right? Baby, where the hell did that come from? How are you, brother and sister? And that we actually take a moment and really care, because how are you has become like a salutation now. We say, hi, how are you? And people say, great, fine, good. And we go, great, that's fabulous, good. On to the next question. But then when you take time to listen and say, oh, no, hold on a minute. We're going through a lot of stuff right now in the world. We're going through a global pandemic. We're going through race redefinition of how races function in the world. Mm-hmm. We're going through a redefinition of how women are treated in the world, of how Black people are treated in the world. We're going through the fundamentals of everything we believed in crumbling around us. Like, how are you really doing? Like, how are you? How are you standing up? And then all of a sudden, good, fine, great disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, I'm scared, or I'm excited, or I'm frightened, or I'm nervous, or I don't know. And then when you get to sit with people and just talk with them at that point, what happens, I notice when I love and accept somebody and I listen to them and I hear them and I acknowledge them and validate them, everything they aren't falls away. And who they are actually emerges. They don't have to protect themselves anymore because they know I'm here for them. And it's the easiest thing in the world, and it's the thing that's most needed in the world now. Look at our political scenario. Look at our medical scenario. Look at our educational scenario. Look at the way our families function. Look at the way everything happens in the world. I want to start a revolution of listening because we've forgotten how to listen. We're not listening to each other anymore.
There's no school for listening.
Yeah.
I'll teach you how to listen.
They don't. It's someone I follow posted something recently that said when someone else is talking, don't focus on what you're going to say next. Actually take the time to listen to what they're saying.
Yeah. And so many people focus on what they're going to say next. And so many people not only focus on what they're going to say next, but find something wrong with what you're saying, or want to defend what they're saying or what they think because they feel attacked or something. And what would happen if I want to create the world of agendaless conversations where I have no agenda to make you believe anything or do anything. I just want to listen to you and hear how you are. My agenda is simply to love you and accept you, to listen to you and hear you, and to acknowledge and validate you. And truth of the matter is that point of view came from 3 incredible incidences in my life. And perhaps we'll get to be able to talk about those. If that comes up, that would be great. If not, we'll talk about something else.
Okay. So where are you from originally?
People have been asking me that my whole life. They're wondering, where the heck are you from, dude? I was born in Philadelphia, and now I live out in San Diego, but I've traveled around the world a lot.
Yeah. So I saw that you lived in Jerusalem, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you almost became an ordained rabbi?
Yeah, one day away.
Yeah.
I was given the opportunity. My mom and dad both passed away when I was a kid.
Okay.
My dad passed away when I was 13, my mom when I was 15, and they died 2 years apart on the same day. And so that devastated me. Because as all my other friends were, playing sports and chasing women or chasing men, which I was doing too a little bit. But I had a question in my head. My dad was my hero. And I thought, how in the world could my hero be taken from me for no apparent reason? I mean, he died making love to my mom in an instant. It's a great way for him to die, a terrible way for my mom to have him die.
Yeah.
And she died of heartbreak because they were so connected that she wrote in her journal 2 days before she passed, just another couple of days to hold on and I'll be with you.
Oh, wow.
And so she knew that she was going to die then. And so I started to ask myself a question, like, how in the world, what happens? Where'd my parents go? What happens when my hero's taken from me? And I realized in writing the Mosaic, and the Mosaic's the fableized version of my life.
Okay.
Most parents pass away 2 years apart on the same day. And when he asks the adults where his parents are, they tell him they're in a place called heaven. So he decides as a kid he's going to set out in search of that place called heaven. But the people he meets along the way are not the clergy and the rabbis and the ministers and the priests and all of the holy men and women. He meets the trash man and the homeless guy, the blind woman and the waitress, the juice man and the gardener. And he wonders, why am I sitting with these people? What are these people going to show me about heaven? And so he said, but I'm here with them. Why don't I just sit with them and listen to them tell me their stories? And in every single case, when he sat with them and listened to them for a few moments, the person he saw as he was talking to them was completely different than the person he saw when he came up to him initially. And, you know, we have this saying, you can never judge a book by its cover, but we all do.
Right.
Right. And when we take the time to actually open up the book and read the book, or sit and listen to the people telling us their stories, we see an entirely different person. And when that happened to me over and over and over again, what I realized is the world I see isn't the world that is, it's the world I see.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I've built so many foundation beliefs, and that's been my foundation for the life that I've built. I've built houses and villages and towns and cities based on that world that I think is real. But it's just the world I see. It's not real. It's not the world that is. And what would happen, I thought, if I could slide myself out of the way and not see the world that I see, but see the world that is? In my book, the character that epitomizes that is the mirror maker. Mo's walking for a long time and he hasn't seen anybody. He's been walking in the wilderness and trying to get himself together. And finally he sees this town on a hilltop and the lights are on. He thinks, boy, if I get there soon, I might be able to see somebody tonight. I really would like to be in the presence of another person. I haven't seen anybody in months.
Mm-hmm.
And so he runs and races to get there. But by the time he gets there, the town is closed except for one store. And that door is open. And he says, I'm going to walk into this store. And he walks in and he says, hello, hello, and nobody answers, and there's nobody there. And he wonders, can I come into the store, or do I need to stay out? Do I need to be invited? But they said the door's open. He thinks the door's open. It must be okay for me to go in there. And he walks into the store, and he's walking around, and he doesn't know if what he's seeing is real, because it's a store full of mirrors. So everything he looks at is a reflection of something and a reflection of something. He's looking at the mirror image of something else.
Right.
And so he has to get very close to the thing that he's looking at. And he gets close to the mirror that just captivates him entirely. And the mirror is not made of glass. It's made of bronze, and it's polished bronze. And he looks at himself in that mirror, and he can see himself in that mirror. And the mirror maker must have known that this is a special mirror, because she had a light that shone on it. And that light shone on it and showed him a different version of himself.
Mm.
And suddenly he was looking at that mirror, and the mirror maker came up to him, and she said, I see you found the mirror you liked. And he said, this is the most beautiful mirror I've ever seen. The frame, the mirror, the fact that it's bronze, beautiful work of art. And she says, what does the mirror see when it looks at you? I started to tell him all the stories that he had, all the things that he brought into his life. And she said, no, I appreciate that. I'm sorry. You didn't hear my question. I know what you see when you look in the mirror. I'm asking you, what does the mirror see when it sees you?
Yeah.
The mirror doesn't know your stories. I would like to ask your listeners, what would the mirror see if it looked at you devoid of your stories? What would actually be there if all your stories that you've told yourself of all that you are and all that you're not and all that you think you're good at and all that you think you suck at just were no longer visible? Who would you actually be?
That's a really good question. I was about to say I couldn't even tell. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you. I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
And so what happened for me in writing the Mosaic was I wrote this book based on characters I'd met along my journey.
Okay.
And I thought it would be done in 6 weeks because I knew my story. It was easy to write.
Huh.
3 years later, I was sitting, pulling out my hair because every time I would write something, I would lose the file. The file would be just corrupted or it would be not saved. And I knew I saved it. So finally I said, enough of this. I'm going to call these characters, which I made up. They're not characters they're not like you guys. Like, I think I'm talking to you. I don't think I made you guys up.
Yeah,
but they appeared to me as if on a Zoom call, just like this. And I said to them, what in the heck is going on here, guys? What are you doing? How come you won't let me finish this? I'm writing good stuff and it's gone. Why aren't you letting it come through? And they said, because what you're saying, we don't want to say. And I said, hold on, with all due respect, this is my story. I made you guys up. You're my characters. I have a right to write in your mouth what I want you to say. And they said, sure you do. But if you do it, it'll take you another 5 years and you'll still be pulling out your hair.
Mm.
If you listen to what we're telling you that we want to say, your book will be done in 30 days. I said, deal. And when I sat and listened to him, what happened is my book was done in 30 days. And what I noticed is the voice that came through my book was a softer, gentler voice that affected me. It changed me. That when I listened to what they were saying, they didn't have this thought of, I need to prove something to somebody. They had this thought of, I just want to share a story, like the mirror maker shared a story. What do you see when you look at, what's the mirror see when it looks in you? There's no agenda there. It's an open-ended question. What do you see?
Right. So
I still haven't answered what happened in Jerusalem. Is that what you want to know?
I want to get to that because I do want to know what happened in Jerusalem. But with that book, you're a great storyteller, by the way. Well, obviously you are if you wrote a book, right?
Thank you. Thank you. That's kind of you to say.
I really want to get, I guess you can't really get to what the boy said to the mirror. That's something that the listener is going to have to go and purchase the book and find out, right?
Yeah, what you want to do is so I've introduced you to one character in the book. There are about 20 characters in the book.
Okay.
All of which give similar stories. Would you like me to share another one?
Yes, but
wait.
Let's go to Jerusalem real quick.
Okay, let's go to Jerusalem.
Because I'm interested in why would you get one day away from being an ordained rabbi and then pretty much not erasing it, but then just going out to be a monk for 10 years.
Walking away from it.
Right, walking away.
So, great question, and question just about everybody asks me. Yeah. Because it doesn't make any sense, right?
To me, it doesn't.
Not to me either, really. The truth of the matter is, not to most people does it make any sense. Why would you spend 5 years and the day before you're going to be ordained, all you have to do is take the ordination test, which you're going to pass. Right. You walk away from it and leave it all on the table. So the backstory is, I was hitchhiking around the world, and I was set on going to India. India was my destination where I wanted to go. And I stopped in Jerusalem and I met a holy man who completely changed the course of my life. And in that change of the course of my life, he asked me a very simple question that I couldn't answer. He asked me, why were you born Jewish? Were you born Jewish to become a Hindu? And I said, I can't answer that question. He said, so stay with us a little bit until you can. And either you'll find out why you were born Jewish to be a Jew and to get ordained, or you'll find that you were born Jewish to do something else. But you can't leave until you know the answer to that question. Because why would you come here, and why would you study here, and why would you learn here if you didn't have that question in your own head? And I said, that's a really good question. So I stayed with him for 5 years.
Okay. All right.
I'm not the smartest guy in the whole world. But what happened is finally through a whole nother, like every time you ask a question, there are 1,000 stories I can tell you about that question. So I just want to make this more concrete for you. A series of events happened where I realized that I was born Jewish in that case to expand upon the dogma of Judaism. Judaism was the seminary that I studied in, the yeshiva that I studied in, we were about 400 people in that yeshiva, in that seminary. Okay. And our belief system was, we are the ones that have the right interpretation of the Torah, of the Talmud, of the Bible. Yeah. And anybody else who doesn't interpret it like us is slightly off. And I couldn't get that. I couldn't, like I said, are you telling me that there's only 400 people in the world that are going to go to heaven after this all ends? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. And my teacher said to me, well, no, that's not the case. But down here, we live in duality. So if this is right, anything that's not this, exactly this has to be wrong. Mm-hmm. And I said, I get that. But he said, when you get up to heaven, when you see God, God lives in unity, so everything becomes okay. So he'll take everybody in. So I said, then why all the fuss down here? Why are we fighting each other and complaining with each other if we're all going to the same place?
Yeah.
And he said, because that's the nature of the world we live in.
Right.
And I just said, I can't buy that. And he told me a beautiful thing, and this is a great thing for your listeners to hear, because it's really true knowledge. He said, take your problems and put them on a shelf. Problems exist at one level. As you get stronger in what your belief system is, you're going to rise up. And what was once a mountain for you when you were a lot strong in your beliefs, because you weren't strong, it looks like, how will I ever deal with those problems?
Mm-hmm.
The stronger you get, you rise up like this, and you keep rising up. And that mountain now becomes a little molehill that you're easily able to step over, because you're strong in your beliefs. But problems always exist at the same level. You grow or shrink depending on how you relate to the world. So one day before I was about to leave, I went to him and I said, I know I'm supposed to take ordination tomorrow, but my shelf just caved in.
Mm.
Everything that was on it is all over the floor now. I can't stay here any longer. I got to go.
So what
I've
was
been trying.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So how did he respond?
He loved me. He treated me like his son.
Yeah. Okay.
He wanted me to marry his daughter, so he was devastated.
Okay.
He knew the possibility existed I might one day go. He said, Danny, listen to me. I so respect the integrity of who you are as a person. I just wish your choice had been different.
Mm-hmm. But he knew why.
Said, yeah. And I said, I do too, to be truthful. His wife, just badmouthed me because she just couldn't take it, because she was too hurt, and she saw how much he was hurt by me leaving.
Yeah.
And so she tried to protect him with her tongue. But he and I had the same heart, and he understood what was going on.
All right. I mean, that was not his intention initially, but he's the one that kind of got you to think a certain way.
Yeah, totally.
He opened your mind up.
Totally. What he said to me is, because I went to him originally en route to get a blessing to India, and he threw me out of his office. And I said, heck, this is not a good way to start a trip. He's a holy man, and it's not a good way to start a trip to India to get thrown out of this guy's office.
Yeah.
And he said, I said, well, you have to explain to me. He said, get out of here. And I said, I'm not leaving until I hear what you want to tell me. And he said, if you don't leave, I'm going to leave. And he got up with 6 other holy men that were around him and left the room. Hmm. And I was sitting there. It was 2:00 in the morning, because the book that I learned about him says there's a holy man here who likes people to visit him between 2 and 6 in the morning. So I got there at 2:00 in the morning.
Okay.
At 2:00 in the morning, I'm sitting there. All these holy men are no longer there, and they walked out. But God, there's so many stories.
Yeah, I know. You're a man of many stories.
There's so many stories. Have you ever had your arm go pins and needles where you couldn't pick it up and you just literally had to lift it up with your other arm?
Yeah, it happens all the time. Well, I'm sleeping now.
When I came and I met him, my whole body had that sensation.
Oh.
I couldn't move any part of my body.
This is you conscious and awake.
I'm conscious and awake.
Oh, so that don't happens to me while I'm sleeping, and I wake up in the middle of the night and have to fix my arm so I don't break it. But your whole body felt like that.
Yeah, I'm standing at the entry door to his office. He's sitting there with 6 other guys with long beards that make mine look like, goatee.
Look like mine.
Yeah, and I couldn't move to get into his office. And it was before computers. This was many years ago. This was when I was 18 years old. I'm 65 now. So computers weren't around.
Okay.
And so, but I felt literally now, looking back, I felt like he was downloading me. And he knew me in seconds better than anybody had ever known me. And I was trying with all my energy to get to the seat that he told me to come in and sit to. But there was like this force field that I couldn't move until he got the information that he needed. And finally I lunged for the chair that was sitting there. And I said, He like everybody laughed, like, why are you going like that? I tripped over. It's like I'm diving for this chair, and I made a complete idiot of myself. And he started asking me these simple questions like, what's your name? Where are you from? How long have you been in Israel? And I answered him really simple questions. And finally I said, hold on. You know me better than any person I've ever met. Why are you asking me such stupid, simple questions? I've come here to get a blessing for a trip to India. I want you to bless me for that trip. And that's when he threw me out. So he finally came back 4 hours later. And I was still sitting there, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I said, you can't leave. I need to know what you want. He said, you told me you saw Israel north, south, east, and west. You said you've been here 9 months. You say you've seen everything. I don't believe you've seen one thing at all.
Oh.
So if you go off to India, you'll have the same thing happen in India. You'll see it north, south, east, and west. You won't see anything because you don't know how to see. If you want to learn how to see, come back tomorrow. I said, but I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm flying from Israel to Turkey, and then I'm going overland to India. He said, that's why I threw you out of the office. You weren't going to come back. And then I thought, on the way home, why not come back tomorrow? I mean, I clearly had an experience with this man that changed my life around. Why not come back?
So, did you come back? Did you go back?
So there were some problems.
Okay.
I had a non-refundable ticket leaving from Israel to Turkey. And it wasn't that much, about $400, something like that. But it was a lot for me. I had nothing. I was hitchhiking around the world.
That was 400 at the time too.
400 at the time. That was almost 50 years ago.
Yeah, so that was a lot.
A little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said a prayer. I said, if you want me to stay here, God, you're going to have to figure out a way for me to stay here. I have a non-refundable ticket.
Don't you talk to God like that.
Where were you 40 years ago? I wish you would have told me that. So I took the Shea route, the little taxi service from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, to the airport. And Israeli security in those days was beyond anything. They were known for their security and their line to get from the line onto the plane. You went through massive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing in this long line of people, completely bewildered by what happened. And all of a sudden I hear this voice go, "You, hey you!" And I looked and I thought, they're not talking to me. So and he came up right in my face. He said, "You, I'm talking to you." I said, "What? What happened?" He said, "Come here with me." And this big security guard walked me up to the front desk. Agents were. And we're in a long line. People are pissed. Like, why is this guy going in front of us? I'm in the end of the line. Why are you going to there? I walked up and said, "I'm sorry, did something happen? What's going on?" She said, "I need to see your ticket, please." And I showed her my ticket. She said, "What's happening here?" So I started to tell her in 4-part harmony with full orchestrations the story of the rabbi and the blessing and the fact that he told me to come back today and that I have a non-refundable ticket and I had no idea what to do. What she said shocked me. She said, "I saw that man in my dream yesterday. He showed me a picture of your face. And he told me that you would be coming here to the counter to get on a plane to go to Turkey. And he told me, don't let him get on that plane." Mm. She said, "You have a non-refundable ticket. I can't do anything under law because that ticket is accountable. But I never want to see that man again who came into my dream. I'm going to give you $400 out of my wallet. Get out of here and do whatever you need to do. You give me your ticket, I'm going to give it, and we're going to just tear this ticket up and say you didn't show up. but I'm going to give you my personal money of $400 so you have your refund.
Mm-hmm.
So I got back in the Sheirut and went back to see the Rebbe. He couldn't believe that I came back. He was sitting with 6 other guys, and he got up. He said, "You came back?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're going to be a Jew?" I said, "Not too fast, big guy. I'm just, I'm coming back. I want to see what's going on here." And that was the beginning of a 5-year trip.
That was the beginning of the 5-year trip.
Beginning of the 5-year trip.
Wow. Man, that's a
Talking
story.
about signs.
Yeah.
So,
Works in mysterious ways. So
I almost feel like I want to tell you why I left now, because I'm talking about signs.
well, where are we at? We have time. We have time. Still got like 40 minutes. That's if you want to tell the story.
Let's go. Let's keep going, because there'll be thousands of other stories.
Okay.
But we're going to come back to why he left.
You want me to tell this story? I can tell you.
I want to ask you about the monk life for 10 years. Okay. What that was like.
So after being in a rabbinical school, after being in a place that was very firm and very rigid, I was an Orthodox guy with the curls coming down and the hat, and very, very, very law-driven. The prayers that I would say, I would wake up in the morning and I would pray, but the prayers were all read out of a book. And so I would pray, and all of a sudden, when I left the seminary, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to start a business. And I just went to San Francisco and I started a bookstore and a cafe. And I thought, this is like heaven. This is so easy and so enjoyable. And the people that were coming in, it was cool people in a cool area. And I really enjoyed the people that I was serving and the things that I was doing. But then there was something missing from it. The spiritual component was missing from it. And I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh.
And so I left the bookstore and the cafe to a friend of mine. I just said, you take it, it's good. It's for you now.
Oh.
And I went off to the hills of the Sierra Nevadas, and there was a monastery there that was a yoga monastery. It wasn't a Catholic monastery, but in that monastery, I thought I fell in love. I was so happy as a monk.
Really?
Because I had all of this. Imagine the first day you saw Rav. And you guys looked at each other and you just fell in love, and all you wanted to do was be with her. I'm giving, don't negate it. I'm giving you a good in here, okay? And all you thought about was being with your beloved. You just wanted to spend the time with them and laugh with them and have fun.
Yeah.
When I had the chance to be with my beloved quietly and alone, there was nothing else I wanted. There was a peace in that peace, because remember, I'd lost my parents, and I was looking for that unconditional love that my parents had always given me. Well, the closest place I found that was in the monastery. Mm-hmm. When I closed my eyes and I just felt this presence within me, just love me and adore me, and just be there to support me and be who I was. And that presence was so intoxicating that I wanted to spend hours and hours and more hours with it. And sometimes I would meditate 14, 18 hours a day. And there would be times that I would fall asleep sitting in my chair, and I would chastise myself for falling asleep sitting there, because that wasn't the place to sleep. I had a bed to sleep in. I could sleep in the bed. Mm-hmm. And I would tell myself, you don't get any points for sleeping here in this chair. And as I was about to get up to leave, my beloved would say to me, I would hear her voice say to me, it's okay, sleep here. When you sleep here, you're sleeping in my arms. I'll hold you. And when you wake up, you'll be with me here, and you come back to me and spend time with me again. So I spent many, many hours of days and nights sitting there with her, my beloved, in that practice of meditation and silence. And that was such a beautiful, beautiful moment for me. And it wasn't about reading books and telling God how glorious he was and how magnificent and how omnipresent and omnipotent and all the omnis that go in that prayer book.
Right.
it was about me just sitting there and saying, I just love you so, and I just want to feel your love. Help me to feel your love. And then just sitting and listening and feeling the love of my divine, just speaking to me and holding me and loving me and taking care of me. And it was beautiful, and I would have spent the rest of my life there.
Yeah.
Until I realized that when I left the monastery, I didn't feel the same way. Suddenly it was too noisy, and it was too much, and there was too much going on around me. And I wanted to have a place where I didn't have to only hide behind the walls of a monastery to feel that peace. I could feel it amidst the noise of the world. So I left.
So you say you felt that while you were in the monastery?
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was there for 10 years and just fell in love with it. But I wanted there to be no difference from the time I sat in my chair to the time I walked with my beloved through the streets of the most coarse town.
Yeah.
Through the quiet of my practice and through the noise of the world around me.
Right.
And so I thought, I can't spend the rest of my life here. I have to be able to go out into the marketplace and do business with people. I have to go and do the things that the people do, but just do it from a place of doing it with my beloved and see if I can take her with me. See if we can do it in a different way than people do it.
Yeah. So how was that transition?
Hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
I bet.
Yeah, it was shocking to my soul because I thought it was going to be easy, but what happened in that period of time is I became a little bit empathic. So I started to feel people. And I started to feel the thoughts of people and the pains that people had in their body. And now more people that I was around, the more things that were happening. I remember, beautiful story. You can tell I'm a storyteller, right?
Yeah, but I'm telling, this is why we call it the Public Therapy Podcast, because you telling your story is therapeutic for me. Like, this is not how I expected the podcast to go. I had so many questions that I want to ask you, but I'd rather not.
Go ahead. But you can. Let's ask your questions. I can pause. Any place that I pause, there's 1,000 stories behind it.
Yeah, no, but that's fine. Keep going, please.
So I was talking about the fact that I could feel people and I could feel their pains and I could feel their thoughts. And I was walking down the street of the town that I live in, San Diego. And on this day in particular, just my senses were embrazen. They were more powerful than they normally were. And I walked by and I saw this woman walking past me, and my heart was palpitating so quickly that I had this pain in my chest that I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And 15 seconds later, when she passed me, it was gone. 2 minutes later, a man came walking on a cane and putting all of his force on a cane, lumbering through his walk to get through to from where he was going. And I felt this pain in his body, and my knees buckled under me, and I fell to the ground.
Okay.
30 seconds later, he was gone, and there was no pain in my body. So I thought, I got to get off the street. This place is going to kill me. And I walked to the corner where the buildings touch the street, the pavement.
Yeah.
And the place that I walked to, there was a homeless guy sitting there. And I felt him, and as bad as his life was, his life was less painful for me to be around than the people on the street. Mm-hmm. So I came up to him and I said, I want to just sit with you if I can, brother. And he said, no, this is my corner. You can't sit here. This is my corner. You can't sit here. This is my corner. I said, I'm sorry. I'm going to sit here with you anyway. I don't mean to but I just need a place to sit. And I just want to hear your story. I want to listen to you and talk to you. And he said, I can't talk to you. I'm going to lose money if I talk to you. I said, how much money do you make in a half an hour? He said, $5. I make $5 every half an hour, $10 an hour. And I need that to take care of the people that count on me. I said, I get that, brother. I'm so sensitive to that. So I went into my wallet and I took $50 out and I gave him $50.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, here, this covers the next half hours. And just put your hat out. You'll get more money with me being here also. I just want to hear your story. And we started talking to each other. And finally, about 30 minutes into it, I said to him, Corey, You see all these people passing by. Tell me, if you could get them to stop for a minute, what would you say to them? He said, well, you've told me a lot of stories. He knew I was a storyteller, I guess, from my time with him too. He said, you've told me a lot of stories. Do you mind if I tell you one? I said, I would love for you to tell me a story, Corey. Tell me a story. He said, my story is not as polite and kind and good as yours. It starts with me hating being homeless. I'm so ashamed of myself and embarrassed for the man that I am, that I don't have a place that I can put my head down, that I have to sleep on the street and put up with how people treat me. And people don't treat me as a human being. They don't even treat me as an animal. They treat me as a thing. And one day these people came by, these group of boys came by and they started yelling at me. And then they just decided they were going to beat the hell out of me, and they beat me and kicked me and punched me. And he said, I just don't know. I didn't know what to do. He said, I just laid down and just tried to fall asleep so I could escape it. And another guy came up and started urinating on me. Mm. And I thought, this is terrible. Look, why do I want to, I hate my life, and people around me treat me like they hate me too. I decided that evening I was going to go to the street behind the street that I was sitting on. That street was a quiet street where nobody walked, and it was really dark at night. And I decided that evening I was going to take my life and just get out of this little rotten life that I had. Now, 2 minutes later, a man in a three-piece suit came up and put his hand on my shoulder. And he said, how you doing, brother? And I said, you don't want to talk to me. I'm not doing good. This is not a good time. Just keep walking, sir. You're not going to be able to do anything to help me. Just keep walking. Just keep walking. It's better for you if you just keep walking. The man said, there's no chance that that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And he sat down next to me, just like you did, Danny. And he said, tell me what's going on. And he said, I don't know why. Maybe it was because he had a three-piece suit on and my clothes were ripped and torn. Maybe it's because I thought he was an important man and I knew how unimportant I was. But something about him taking that time to spend with me just made tears fall from my eyes. And tears fell, crocodile, big tears fell from my eyes and fell all over him. He said, cry it all out, brother. Tell me what's going on. And Corey looked at me and he said, Danny, it only took 10 minutes. 10 minutes of sitting with him and talking to him and just telling him things. He didn't try and help me. He didn't try and fix me. He didn't try and change me. He didn't try and counsel me. He didn't try and convert me. He didn't try and do anything. He just sat there and held me and listened to me. And after 10 minutes, I couldn't kill myself anymore. Because now this important man had taken the time out of his day to actually make me feel like I was worth something. Because he just listened to me. He said, I wish I could have found that man again, because I wish I would have been able to tell him that day he saved my life. But guys, there's something called the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is a butterfly flaps his wings and other butterflies flap their wings and they start to create a current that changes stuff. Corey's story changed me that day. And so I asked him, Corey, is that the story you would tell to people? He said, yeah, if I could stop these people and just say one thing to them, I would say, take 10 minutes out of the course of your life and go up to somebody and just ask them how they're doing and just listen to them. It saved my life that somebody did that. I've told Corey's story now. He doesn't know it because I went back to that street corner to try and find him many times. He's not there. I've told that story to probably millions of people by this point. Yeah. Every talk that I give, every podcast that I'm on, every show that I go to, every lecture that I do, I make sure to tell Corey's story. And I give people the challenge, what's 10 minutes out of the course of a lifetime? Everybody has 10 minutes in the course of a lifetime. To just find somebody they don't know and just simply ask them, how are you? Mm-hmm. Who knows what that will do? Who knows how that will change? Who knows what will happen as a result of it?
So why is that so hard? Because it is simple. It's a simple thing to do. But why is it so hard to do at the same time?
So you tell me. I do it. That's all. That's how I spend my days.
Yeah, and I want to cut you off earlier in the beginning of the podcast when you was talking about this, because I do that as well. I ask people, "How are you doing?" and they don't respond, because now, like you said earlier, it's more what I forgot what you called it, but it's more like it's so standard. So someone says, "How you doing?" They respond back with, "How you doing now?" It's
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
when someone asks me how I do, I say, "I'm fine. How are you doing?" And then it's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. There's nothing there.
But get this, and then when you ask them, "No, I'm asking you, how are you doing?" They may get offended, or they might get weirded out or something like that. So it's almost taboo.
So then maybe that's why they don't do it. But here's what I found. And this is so central. My wife says to me, I don't know how you get away with saying the things you say to people. because you're very straight up with them and you tell them just exactly what it is. And you're going to get shot one day. And I said, I may. But you know what? This is what I really believe. When my heart touches your heart, I can talk to you about anything. When you feel how much I love you when I talk to you, and you feel that I only want your good and I only want good things to come to you, I can ask you anything, or I can say anything to you, because I'm not trying to put you down. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not trying to hurt you. And I'll say to people, you know what I'm about to say to you? If it doesn't make any sense, put it in a trash can. Don't even think about it for a minute. Just because I'm getting it from my intuition to ask you doesn't mean you have to answer it. If it feels like it's something you don't want to talk about, throw it away.
Right.
But if it touches you, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how simple could it be? Like, I have a Zoom room, and I started a project, an experiment. I started out by having 50 conversations with 50 strangers. And I wanted to find out what would happen if strangers would talk to each other. Because my mom taught me growing up, don't talk to strangers, Danny. And everybody's a stranger, so I can't talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It limits my world to, very small groups of people. So I wanted to find out what would happen if different people from different walks of life would talk to each other. Would they be able to? And in that room, it's amazing what happens.
Magic.
When people, I can't emphasize this enough. I feel like a broken record. But when people feel loved and accepted and listened to and heard and acknowledged and validated, all their armor comes off. Suddenly what happens is who they are emerges. And sometimes people come into that room and see who they are themselves for the first time. They've never seen that person because we walk around so protected and so siloed because we're scared you're going to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
But when they find someone who's not going to hurt them, they go, oh my God, I can let it all down here.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels good.
Yeah.
And I learned that from my book, The Mosaic. In the simple ordinariness of the people that I spoke to, common ordinary people, beautiful people, they showed me the beauty of being ordinary. I asked people on a scale of 1 to 10, where does ordinary stand for you? Where does it stand for you guys?
On a scale of 1 to 10, what does ordinary stand?
Yeah, if your kid said, I just want to be ordinary, what would you say to them?
That's like, I'm speaking for self, obviously, I would say about a 4.
4. How about you, Rev?
Ordinary. I would think that would be dead center.
Dead center. Okay. So you would be happy if your kids came to you and said they wanted to be ordinary?
Me? Oh, go ahead.
It depends on what they think is ordinary.
Okay. Let's ask it this way and see if we can get context. What would you say if your kids came to you and said, I'm going to live my life to be as extraordinary as I possibly can?
I would be scared, but I would be more interested than I would be scared, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. How about you, Rafe?
extraordinary as I possibly can.
Because extraordinary, that's broad.
Yeah.
It can mean a lot of things.
It would have to be a conversation. Do they feel like extraordinary is their best potential?
Yeah. Let's say that's what they feel.
Oh, no.
Look, in the world, let's put it, let me try and context it for you. In the world that I live in right now, a lot of people are talking about their superpowers. They're talking about being these superheroes that have, these capes and walk through the world, and they have these superpowers that they're able to do all this stuff for the world. And I think, I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry you feel like you have to be Superman all the time. Mm-hmm. Because that's an unsustainable reality. Even Superman becomes Clark Kent. Yeah. And what happens is, I think we live in a world where everybody, 95% of the people, when I ask if you want to be ordinary, they say no, 1 or 2. And when I ask them if they want to be extraordinary, they say 10, 20, 100 on a scale of 1 to 10. And I say, that's interesting. If ordinary is something you don't want to be, why would you want to be extra of something you don't want to be?
Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't
Crazy
think about it like
he says that, because I used to, people say extraordinary, and I'm like, isn't it extraordinary?
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that, but I'm like, I guess I'm thinking too deep into it.
So what is the opposite of that? Unordinary?
The most beautiful thing in the world is ordinary. Okay. The sun, what can you tell me that's more beautiful than a sunrise or a sunset? What can you show me that's more beautiful than leaves appearing, buds appearing on a tree in springtime? From a barren tree, these buds appear and these beautiful flowers come out.
Yeah.
What can you show me that's more beautiful than leaves, than a tree full of leaves, changing colors and having all the leaves drop to the ground? But in the process of that time, becoming the most beautiful, like clandestine colors you could ever imagine. But we have a thing that ordinary isn't good. So we try to be extraordinary, which means we have a pandemic going through us also that is of self-loathing. Because we're trying to be something that we can't be. We're always trying to be this better version of ourselves. What's wrong with just being ourselves?
All right. I promise we do not live in the ghetto, but there's just fireworks that just happened outside.
There's what happened outside?
There's some fireworks that just popped off last.
Fireworks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like a car crash at first. I'm like, oh, someone just hit our car.
So, do you need to check on something, make sure you're safe?
No, we realized it was fireworks and we were good.
Okay.
They're doing something out here in the UK. It's like some holiday weekend or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it was super interesting because in America, there's a lot of tension in our country right now between the two political sides.
Right.
And I was watching when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris accepted, not that Trump still hasn't given them the concession, but they said, we accept that we are going to be president-elect and vice president-elect.
Right.
And in the midst of what was going on, somehow a firework went off, but everybody jolted because it sounded like a gunshot. And you could see Kamala Harris literally put her head down, like, oh, well, are we being shot at? Because that's how close the tension it was to the feeling that could be.
Yeah, we'll probably be back in the States here around this time next year, and I can't say that I'm not worried, but I'm very interested in what it's going to be like a year from now.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
So I was going to ask you a question. So you're a very interesting man, Danny. And you've been two of the people who are very, like, what I used to consider, and don't take this the wrong way, when I was younger, I used to think it was weird. And now when you mature whenever you take things that you thought was weird, and now you're more intrigued by those things that you used to be weirded out by. Yeah. So, and you were the rabbi, you were the what do you call them?
Those are called payas.
payas and then the hat and the coat. I used to see.
Yeah.
Always saw those guys running through the airport, not running through the airport, but at the airport. That's where I usually saw them at. And then for me, the stereotypical monk is like, what do you think about when you hear the word monk? You don't think anything?
I don't know.
For me, I'll be honest. When I think of monk, I think of shaven head and orange suit robe. Yeah. So did you go through, is that the kind of monk that you were, or is there different kind of monks in the world?
There are different kinds of monks in the world. That most monks wear a uniform.
Okay.
We didn't wear uniforms. We just dressed like normal. And the belief system of our place, most people define the monastery as that we don't get married, we don't do these things.
Yeah.
The monastery we were in, we defined ourselves a little bit differently. We said our monastery is the only thing that's important is that we love God before anything. And so we're going to define ourselves by what we do rather than what we don't do.
Okay.
So if it turns out that we're no longer happy as a monk in a monastery single, then we can still live a monastic life married because we choose to be married to each other. And that doesn't mean that you have to be celibate. You know, a monk defines his life normally as we're celibate and we are sequestered from people and we wear robes and we shave our heads and we didn't do any of that. We just said, what is it that we want more than anything? We're going to devote our life to loving and serving God in the way we know how to do it. And then when I left to get married. But I'm still, and my wife, I was married for 18 years. My wife passed away of the worst cancer in the world.
Oh.
And I remarried about 7 years ago. And my wife looks at me and she says, I'm going to write a book called I Married a Monk, because you're still a monk.
Mm.
You know, there's everything about you is still a monk. You know, it doesn't mean, just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you're not a monk. You're still a monk.
Yeah.
Because that's what's the most important thing to you is.
I bet that's funny so I'm sure there's been instances where your wife has been in a situation to where I'm married to a monk, like she'll probably said that.
Yeah.
And then they kind of laugh like, ha ha ha. Yeah. But then
everybody thinks you should write the book.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm literally married to a monk.
Yeah. And I'm this older, heavier man, you know, and she's a young, beautiful woman. She's 21 years younger than me. And
you scared me for a second. Whew. I thought you were about to say she's 21 years old.
No. She's 21 years. So I'm 65 and she's 44.
Okay.
But what's interesting in it is that we had a conversation. We met through a Tony Robbins group.
Okay.
And she was in an abusive relationship. And she just said, I've lost all my passion. I don't know how to find my passion. And it was on a Facebook page. And I wrote back, how do you live without passion? I mean, how is that even possible to breathe and live without passion? And she wrote me and said, would you mind having a Skype call with me? And we had a Skype call, and she said when she was talking to me, she felt her whole body alive with this electricity running through her. And she knew from that moment she was going to marry me.
Yeah. We
didn't even know each other. We hadn't even, but those things are things that happen. I wasn't as sure as she was. But she's this young, beautiful, you know, Argentine woman. And I was this old, fat, you know, guy from, you know, sitting in San Diego.
Yeah.
But something went, I guess the theme that keeps coming up in every story that I'm telling, maybe the public therapy that we're all seeking is what happens when we live the life we're intended to live. Mm-hmm. Not the one we think has to be somebody, where we have to be somebody else. Not the one where we have this high quotient for ourselves, where we have to be extraordinary all the time.
All right.
But my wife knew that what was hers, and she didn't expect it to come in this package. She expected a younger, more handsome, you know, more able person. But she got this, and she said, "This is what I want. This is what I've been given. This is what I want."
Yeah.
And for people in relationships with each other, if you know that this is your partner, do everything you can to hold on to your partner.
Mm-hmm.
The world will challenge us at every point in time, at every twist and turn we make. It'll tell us that's not the person for us. There's a younger, sexier model. There's a better, newer edition that we can trade them in for this one.
Right.
Right? But that's not going to give you the comfort you want. It might be fun for a little while, and I know I've done that. But it won't give you the peace that you're looking for.
All right.
And so the most important thing is to know why you're here. Why are you here? And once you know, like the Mosaic taught me, there are 4 types of connections. Most people think this is connection, you and I talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 4th level of connection. Before any of that happens, I have to be connected to myself.
Okay.
Because if I'm not connected to myself, what I do is I have this silo around me. Because all of the time I spend my time just doing this, hitting myself. Yeah. And first I go like this and I hit myself. I go, wow, that hurts. So I'm going to protect myself and put it here. Mm-hmm. But look how close my protection is. It's 2 millimeters from my face. And I don't know where I'm going to hit myself. So that silo is all the way down. Until I practice kindness to myself and stop hitting myself, those walls will stay up. And if I have those walls, I'm not connected to myself.
Okay.
So practicing kindness to ourselves brings us a connection to self.
Okay.
Suddenly when those walls come down, I go, whoa, look at this world that's here. It's amazing. I didn't realize, look how big and beautiful and grand this world is. And you realize there's something bigger than you that lives in the world. And you connect to this, you connect to the divine, you connect to God or to source. And when you have that connection, you realize, wow, that connection probably has some reason why I'm here. There's some reason why this being is here in this world with this creator creating me to be here. And we have to find what that reason is. So the 3rd connection is connection to purpose.
Okay.
If we don't know why we're here, then everything we do will take us to the end of where we're going, because we don't know where we're going.
Right.
We have to know why we're here and what we're doing. And then then our road starts to become clear. It's like a GPS system. If we just get in the car and don't know where we're going, we'll get all sorts of directions.
Right. You just go everywhere.
Right. But if we know where we're going, we put it in the GPS and we sit back and relax, turn left, turn right, go 200 meters, go 500 miles. It's easy. Right. We just follow the directions.
Yeah.
And it's only when we're kind people who connect to themselves and vulnerable people who realize that there's a bigger world than them, and then purposeful people who know they're here for a reason come together. That's when that's the type of people Margaret Mead's talking about when she says it's always been a small group of people that have come together with a purpose in mind, that have changed the whole course of civilization.
Okay. I like that. Never heard anyone explain it like that either.
Yeah.
So as this is a Public Therapy podcast, I always ask our guests, what is something that they do every day that is therapeutic to them?
My practice is meditation.
So you meditate every day?
I've been fortunate enough to meditate every day for the last 45 years.
Yeah. You have some good practice living in a monastery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And whereas in the monastery, I might have meditated 18 hours a day. Now, sometimes I meditate only moments, but I never miss a time where I go in and connect to myself.
Yeah.
Because for me, the process of meditation is like being on a wheel. When I'm at the outside, when I'm on the rim of the wheel, I get thrown by everything that happens. The faster the wheel goes, the harder it is to hold on.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get to the hub of the wheel, doesn't matter how fast the wheel goes, the hub only turns a little. It's easy to be at the hub. It's easy to be at the center.
Yeah.
So once you get to the center of that wheel and you live from the center of that wheel, there isn't much that can toss you. I mean, things toss you, don't get me wrong. But you can get back on the hub easier than you can on the spoke.
All right. I can't meditate. I tried to meditate. I don't know what I guess meditation comes in so many different forms though.
Everybody can meditate.
Yeah.
You just have an idea of what it is that you're not able to do, that you don't think you're able to do.
Yeah, I have an ignorant idea of assuming that meditation is sitting in a room quiet, not speaking with anyone.
And how long do you think you have to have an ignorant idea of sitting in a room quiet, not speaking to anyone for each day to be in order to say you meditate?
I'll probably lose my mind after 5 minutes.
Okay. So why don't you try 3 minutes?
Okay.
Why don't you try sitting for 3 minutes and just simply watching your breath go into your nose and out of your nose? Just simply watch your breath and see, does it feel cool when it comes in your nose? Is it warm when it comes in your nose? When it goes into your nose, how far into your nose does it go? Does it go to the top of your nose? Does it go into the top of your nose and down into the body from there? And when you exhale, what's the sensation of that exhalation like? And just watch your breath coming in and out of the body. The breath. Without breath, we can't live.
Right.
And so the quality of the breath we take changes the way we live our life. Most people breathe a shallow inhalation and a shallow exhalation. We just go, right? And so, like, step back from that a minute. I don't want to call the world shallow or anything like that. But if you're living in a world where you take only a little bit of the world in and give only a little bit of yourself back to the world, that isn't much of a relationship with the world, is it?
Oh. I guess I
And then they're the people that have a deep inhalation and a shallow exhalation, where they try and take everything they can from the world. In the higher form of that, they receive everything. In the lower form of that, they take everything, but they don't give back very much. That world isn't very sustainable either.
No.
Because it's not concentrated. There are other people that give all that they're givers. They give and they give and they give, but they have no idea how to receive. They're given so much that when someone says something, here, I want to help you. No, you don't have to. I'm going to do that. But when we can give to the world everything that's inside of us in our exhalation, and we can receive from the world everything that it wants to give us in our inhalation, what a beautiful practice of life that is.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take any more time. Just practice taking 10 deep breaths any point during the day and see if it doesn't change your consciousness.
No. Okay.
Just a deep inhalation and a deep exhalation. And the more you feel it, the more you like it, the more it'll start to intoxicate you. And the more you'll say, I don't want to spend only 3 minutes. I want to spend 3.5 minutes. I want to spend like 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And let the love of it develop in you, that it makes you want to do more.
Okay.
And like you would with anything that you love, hold back on it a little bit. I want to do 30 minutes. No, today you can only do 5 minutes.
Mm.
And just hold it back so you have a desire for it, so you have a passion for it, so you're anticipating what it's going to be like when I can sit and just enjoy this presence that I feel in myself for 30 minutes. Wow, 30 minutes of this, of what I feel in these 3 minutes. I could have this for 30 minutes. Wow. I could have it for 40 minutes. I could have it for an hour. I could have it for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Let yourself be intoxicated by it. That you're like a drunk who just wants more and more of the bottle.
Right.
Right? A drunk doesn't think, well, I can't do this I can't keep drinking. This isn't good. They want more and more of the bottle. They drink, they want more drink.
Yeah.
Be like a drowning man who wants their breath. Mm-hmm. When you're drowning, the only thing you want is the breath. You'd give anything for a breath.
Right.
We have breath to us all the time. We don't take advantage of it.
Yeah. All right, Danny. So your book, the Mosaic, I was about to talk about your podcast. So your book, where can your book be found?
Amazon is the easiest way to do it. It's the Mosaic. If you can't see it, you see it's a black and white cover, but you can put Mosaic Daniel Levin. The beauty of that book is it will change your perspective. We're used to seeing what we see. But when we see what we see all the time and we don't see anything else, we never change, we never innovate, we never grow. And what's happened in the world that we live in today, we are siloed with people of like-minded people. We hang out with people who think like us, who act like us, who feel like us, who pray like us, who worship like us, who do like us. But the world wasn't created in silos. Mm-hmm. It was created in big open fields and meadows where people can commingle and join together.
Yeah.
And so it's time to come together with like and unlike minds. It's time to talk to people you don't know and ask them how they're doing. And it's time to just sit and see, what would the world look like if it wasn't the world that I see? And open up the possibility that maybe the way you see the world is only just that, the way you see it, but there might be other ways to see it. And open yourself up to the perspective. How would I see it if I saw it another way?
Yeah. I'm really interested in that book. I'm buying it, just so you know. I like
say yes, honey. It's okay. You can buy it. Give me a.
I just want to, because you said there's 20 different characters. Just that one character that you explained in the beginning of the podcast. There has to be great stories out of that book. So I have to get that book.
You'll love it. I think you'll love it.
Yeah.
If you could put up with me for an hour like this, you'll love the book. It's gentler, kinder, nicer, and more powerful than me.
Yeah, I want to bring you back on, maybe in like a couple months or so, to kind of talk about some more things too.
It'd be my honor.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
We got lost in Storyland.
We did, but it's a great way to bring back the podcast because people have been asking. So it's a great way to start after a month of not putting out any episodes. So you can be the first one, episode 55.
Love it. Love it.
All right. Anything else that you want to plug while you're on?
No. I just want to say what a joy it was to be with you guys and how kind you are to have me. Oh. And just keep on being kind to each other and loving each other.
Thanks for making it easy for us. I appreciate you, sir.
Blessing.
Anything you want to add?
No. It was a pleasure listening to your stories. Chris will be buying the book and I will be reading it as well.
Great.
She'll probably beat me to it, but I'm going to read it.
I love it. It's coming out in Audible in another day. Audible has been inundated with so many people trying to get their books on Audible, but they promised me it would be out November 18th, which is really soon. It's not out yet, but then they sent me a note saying they're delayed. So if you like listening to it more than reading it, it will be available on Audible.
Is it in your voice?
Yeah. It's in my voice.
Yeah. I'll wait for that. I'll wait till the audio come out then.
People like my voice. I didn't want to read it. I wanted someone more professional to read it, but people said, no, you got to read it.
Yeah, I want to hear your story. Well, I want to hear the story that you've written in your voice.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's what we're going to wait on. We'll wait till that comes out in Audibles. All right.
It's also nice to have the book, the hard copy. It's beautiful. And just by holding it, you can feel a presence.
Okay. You trying to get a double sell? You see that? No, I believe you. All right. And then you have their podcast called the Mosaic Podcast. People can just find you on the Mosaic Podcast. Yeah,
they can. Or I have two websites, danielbrucelevin.com or the mosaiconline.com. And I'll send you, if I haven't already sent you, I'll send you all the links to my site.
All right. And I'll plug all that stuff in the details for the whenever the show releases. All right. So this will come out on Thursday, the upcoming Thursday. I think that's the 17th. Or is it 19th? Oh, yeah, it is the 19th.
Whatever it is.
All right, sir.
Trust her. I trust her.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, it's been another episode of the Public Therapy Podcast with your host, Chris.
You're right.
And we got Danny on the line with this. I appreciate you, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Until next time, soon.
All right.
Until next time. Bye.